I checked my watch for what felt like the 100th time, 30 minutes. That was how long I had been sitting alone at a small corner table inside a cozy cafe in downtown Chicago. Outside, rain tapped gently against the windows. Inside, people chatted, laughed, and enjoyed their evenings while I wondered if I had just been stood up. Again, at 34 years old, dating had become exhausting. After years of disappointments, awkward conversations, and broken expectations, I wasn't even sure why I had agreed to another blind date. My younger sister had insisted. "Trust me," she'd said. "She's different." I smiled bitterly as I stirred my cold coffee. Different. I'd heard that before. I pulled out my phone, ready to send a polite message and leave, when the cafe door suddenly opened. A woman stepped inside, soaked from the rain. She looked around nervously before her eyes landed on me. For a moment, everything seemed to slow down. She hurried toward my table. "I'm so sorry," she said, slightly out of breath. "I know I'm late." I stood up awkwardly. "It's okay." "No," she insisted. "It's really not." Then she looked directly at me, not at my clothes, not at my watch, not at the chair across from me, at me. And with a small smile, she said something no one had ever said before. "You have kind eyes." I laughed softly. Of all the things she could have commented on, that wasn't what I expected. "That's a first," I admitted. "Really, most people notice I'm losing my hair." She laughed. A genuine laugh, not polite, not forced, real, and somehow, that simple moment broke all the tension. Her name was Emma. Within minutes, conversation flowed naturally. There were no rehearsed questions, no attempts to impress each other, just two strangers sharing stories. I learned she worked as an elementary school music teacher. She learned I managed a hardware store. Neither of us had glamorous lives. Neither of us cared. For the first time in years, I felt completely comfortable. But, 2. Halfway through dinner, something unexpected happened. Emma's phone rang. She glanced at the screen. The color drained from her face. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Everything okay?" She hesitated, then nodded, but I could tell she was lying. A few minutes later, she excused herself and stepped outside. Through the window, I watched her speaking urgently into the phone. She looked distressed. When she returned, her eyes were glossy. "I hate to do this," she said quietly, "but I have to leave." Disappointment hit me immediately. But before I could respond, she continued, "My student is in the hospital." I blinked. "What?" She took a deep breath. "One of my students has leukemia. His mother just called. He's having a difficult night, and he keeps asking for me." I stared at her. Most people would have stayed. Most people would have said they were busy. Most people would have chosen themselves. Emma was already reaching for her coat. "I'm really sorry." For a moment, I watched her struggle. With guilt, then I stood up. "I'll drive." She looked confused. "What?" "I'll take you. You don't have to." "I know." The hospital was 20 minutes away. The entire drive, she told me about the little boy. His name was Noah, 8 years old, loved baseball, dreamed of becoming a firefighter. And despite spending most of the past year fighting cancer, he somehow remained the happiest kid in her class. When we arrived, Emma thanked me and headed toward the entrance. I should have left. Instead, something stopped me. Maybe curiosity, maybe concern, maybe something deeper. I followed. Inside the pediatric cancer ward, I saw something that changed me forever. Children, dozens of them. Some smiling, some sleeping, some fighting battles far bigger than any child should ever face. Emma walked directly to Noah's room. The moment he saw her, his face lit up. "Miss Emma." His voice was weak but joyful. She sat beside him and held his hand, and for the next hour she sang softly. Songs, stories, little jokes, anything to make him smile. I stood quietly in the doorway, watching, listening, learning. I realized then that kindness wasn't something Emma occasionally practiced. It was who she was. As we prepared to leave, Noah stopped me. "Hey, mister." I stepped closer. "Yay," he smiled. "Miss Emma likes helping people." "She does," he pointed at me. "You look like someone who helps people too." I didn't know what to say, because the truth was, I didn't see myself that way. I worked, paid bills, went home, repeated the cycle. Helping people wasn't something I consciously thought about. But Noah's words stayed with me. Weeks passed. Emma and I continued seeing each other. Not because sparks flew instantly. Not because life suddenly became perfect. But because every time I was around her, she made me want to become a better version of myself. Then came another unexpected turn. One evening, Emma called me crying. Noah's family was struggling financially. His father had lost his job while caring for him. Medical expenses were overwhelming them. They were at risk of losing their home. The situation felt impossible. What could two ordinary people do? But Emma wasn't the kind of person who accepted helplessness. She started a fundraiser. I helped, friends helped, neighbors helped, teachers helped, strangers helped. Something remarkable happened. People who had never met Noah began donating. $5, $20, $100. Every contribution carried the same message. You are not alone. Within 3 weeks, we raised enough money to cover several months of expenses. When Noah's parents found out, they broke down in tears. So did Emma, honestly, so did I. But the most powerful moment came later, months later. Noah was finally healthy enough to return to school. The entire community gathered to welcome him back. Children lined the hallways holding handmade signs. Teachers cheered. Parents applauded. And Noah walked through those doors, smiling. From ear to ear, then he spotted Emma. He ran toward her and hugged her tightly. The crowd erupted. I looked around and realized something extraordinary. One small act of kindness had inspired another, and another, and another, until an entire community had been transformed. That night, Emma and I sat together on a park bench. The sun was setting. The world felt peaceful. You know, I said, I've never forgotten what you told me the day we met. She smiled. What was that? You said I had kind eyes. She laughed softly. I remember. I shook my head. The funny thing is, I don't think I actually had kind eyes back then. What do you mean? I think you saw something in me before I saw it in myself. Emma squeezed my hand. Sometimes people need someone to remind them who they really are. I looked at the woman who had arrived 30 minutes late and completely changed my life. And for the first time, I understood something important. The world isn't transformed by famous people. It isn't changed by wealth, status, or power. It's changed by ordinary people who choose kindness when it's easier not to. People like Emma, people like Noah, people like the strangers who donated, and maybe if we choose compassion over indifference, people like us. Because sometimes the greatest gift we can give another person isn't money, advice, or even solutions. Sometimes it's simply showing up and reminding someone they are not alone. That blind date was supposed to be one evening. Instead, it became the beginning of a completely different life. All because one woman looked at me, smiled, and said 5 simple words. You have kind eyes. And from that moment forward, I tried every day to make sure she was right.